Alright, hi. I'm going to be reading Magium today, which is a really cool choose your own adventure story app that is free, and you guys should read it yourself because it's amazing and super cool. Yeah. If it will work with me, because I have not had good luck today with computer stuff. Come on, buddy. You got this. I believe in you. God, what is with it playing ads recently? It didn't used to do that. I don't like it. But half the time you guys can't see it anyway, so I'm just gonna go with it. Alright, so we are restarting chapter 7 because it decided to tell me that it didn't like me and delete a bunch of my saves. Barry, I would like to have a word with you in private, Kate tells me as the four of us are taking a small break near a river. I knew this was coming. I've been expecting it ever since we had that discussion about my stat device 2 hours ago. She barely spoke a word to me about after that, and the look she's been giving me for the past hour has been sending chills down my spine. Whatever the reason for her sudden change of attitude towards me, I can't let things go on like this. We need to clear this up one way or another. Stop. Oh my gosh, this mouse makes me so angry. Stop, please. All right, I say, lead the way. Kate goes on ahead, and I start to follow her, but I take my first step. But before I take my first step, Darren grabs me by the shoulder. Remember, Barry, 3 taps. The look in his eyes is dead serious. I realize he's talking about the magical transceiver he gave me last night, which I'm still carrying in my pocket. He told me to tap it 3 times in case I'm in danger. I guess he must have also noticed that something was wrong with the way Kate's been acting for the past 2 hours. I nod to him and he lets go of me. I then go on to follow Kate, who is heading deeper into the forest. We walk in silence for about a minute. How far are we going exactly? I ask her. But she gives no answer and continues to walk forward. After about another minute, she finally stops and turns to me with the same cold look in her eyes that she's been giving me ever since we fought the dragon. Are you planning to tell me what? Kate doesn't let me finish my sentence, and suddenly an ice dagger appears in her right hand, which she then almost immediately puts to my throat. I try to step back, but I realize there's a tree right behind me. She's now pressing her blade hard against my throat, and I can feel a trickle of blood running down my neck as my back is being pushed against the tree's trunk. If you make any kind of noise, I will slit your throat, here and now. Do you understand? Yes. If you wanted to borrow some money, you could have just asked nicely, or tapped the magical transceiver 3 times without letting her notice. I'll go with yes. Good. Now, I want you to listen to me. I want you to listen to me carefully. Good. Now I want you to listen to me carefully and answer my questions. Tell me, where are you keeping Diane? What? The coldness in Kate's eyes is starting to get replaced by anger. Don't think you can get away by just feigning ignorance like you've been doing until now. I know who you are. I'm asking you again, what have you done? What have you done with Diane? Where are you keeping her? Answer me. Yeah, Ivy, I know. For whatever reason, this is super glitchy and half the time you guys can't see it, but I don't know how to fix it, so I'm just gonna keep reading and hopefully the sound of my voice is enough. I'm sorry. Okay, cool. One day I'll figure out how to fix this so it's not so glitchy. I have no idea what you're talking about. Who is Diane? Damn you! Kate shouts furiously at me while tears are starting to form in her eyes. Damn you to hell! I trusted you, both you and Rose. Was this all a part of your plan to recapture me? Were you trying to get close to me so that you could catch me off guard? Is Rose working with you too? What? No, listen to me. Where are the other Lasathi? Are they waiting to ambush me as we speak? Are they all just waiting for your signal? She thinks I'm a Lasathi? The race that built the dragon trap? What's wrong with her? She isn't making any sense. Damn it, Kate, I don't know what's gotten into you, but I'm not a Lasathi. Do you think I'd be wasting my time here trying to become a mage if I had the ability to build powerful magical traps and devices? You're lying! Kate yells at me. You're lying through your teeth. Humans could not survive with such a weak magical aura, and there's no other race that looks exactly like humans and possesses so little magical energy. Even if I am somehow a Lasathi, that doesn't deny the fact that I've been raised by humans and have never met these guys who captured you. Does this have something to do with the Beacon of Hope? I'm not working with any of them. Please, trust me on this. Why? She screams while tears slide down her face. Why should I trust you? What makes you any different from the rest of them? Why should I believe that you won't simply betray me like everyone else I've ever met in my life? Because I'm in love with you, or because I helped you when we were attacked by the crossbowmen. So if I'm doing smart, good Barry, who's also keeping all of his love interests open, I'm gonna go with because I'm in love with you. Because I'm in love with you! When Kate hears my words, she punches the tree behind me so hard it leaves a big dent and her knuckles start bleeding. I can see her literally trembling with rage. Use a SA? What's that? Is everything a joke to you? She shouts at me. Suddenly, there's a sound coming from my pocket, and this time it's not my stat device. Barry, are you okay? Says Darren through the magical transceiver. Are you still there? I tap the device with my left hand in order to activate it and answer him. Yes, Darren, I'm fine. I'm just having a longer discussion with Kate. I'll let you know when we're done. Oh, okay then. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just starting to get worried, that's all. Take your time. Don't use a sound alert. I actually tried to figure out how to disable it when I was in this page and it didn't work. It's supposed to be relaxing. Take your time. What was that? Kate asks me as I turn off the transceiver. It's funny. She's still holding her dagger at my throat as she speaks to me, but I find myself to be unusually calm about all of this. I wonder if it's because of everything I've been through since I joined this tournament yesterday. That was a device that Darren gave me to communicate with him in case of an emergency. I tell her. What? No, that can't be right. We never talked about this during our strategy meetings. Why wouldn't he have also given me a device like this if it's for emergencies? That's because Darren doesn't trust you. But you said... I'm sorry, Kate. I was afraid that you wouldn't believe me if I told you the truth. The fact of the matter is, I am the one that convinced Darren to not perform the purification ritual on you when we first met. No. You're lying. Am I? Aren't you the one that said that Darren never looked at you as if you were a human being? Kate hesitates. Why would you, of all people? It's because of my sister, who turned into a banshee a long time ago. That's how I knew you were different. Do you really expect me to believe... She stops when she sees the look on my face. She must have realized I'm being serious this time around. It happened 15 years ago, I tell her. My family and I were living in a rather isolated village where people didn't really know much about banshees and mages in general. When my sister started gaining magical powers, we were all overjoyed because we thought we had a mage in the family. Then, one night, I start getting flashbacks of the night when my sister turned into a banshee. It feels as if her sinister laughter is still ringing in my ears. One night, I came home to find the bodies of my parents lying in pools of blood, with my sister standing above them. Only, it wasn't my sister anymore. Everything was different about her, even her magical aura. She was just about to kill my younger brother when I picked a pitchfork from the ground and impaled her with it. I was lucky. The banshee had just awakened, which made her vulnerable. If I had arrived even a few minutes later, I don't think anyone would have been able to stop her anymore. I pause and then look Kate straight in the eye. Darren's transceiver is made so that I can let him know when I'm in danger by simply tapping it 3 times. I could have done that the moment you put the dagger to my throat, but I didn't. For the same reason, I didn't refuse to go alone with you into these woods. Same reason I didn't refuse to go alone with you in these woods despite the obvious risks. It's because I wanted to talk things through with you and make sure that we clear things up between us. Now tell me, Kate, do you still think I'm saying all of this? Kate, do you still think I'm saying all of this just so I can gain your trust in order to capture or assassinate you? Kate's hand holding the dagger is starting to tremble, and the fierce determination she has in her eyes is slowly dying down. She lowers her dagger, and her gaze turns towards the ground on her left side. No, I don't. She answers me. I'm really sorry for everything. There's no need to apologize, or are we still friends then? Smart, good Barry. Are we still friends then? Friends? She asks me, shocked. She looks at me, trying to figure out if I'm being serious or not. You're insane, she says. I almost killed you. But you didn't. That's besides the point. I was ready to slit your throat at a moment's notice, and now you're talking to me about friendship? What's wrong with you? Are you completely out of your mind? Of course I am. Surely you must have realized this when you found out about the true reason I joined the tournament. She's looking at me as if she can't believe the words I'm saying. Now, are we friends or not? I say as I hold my hand out to her. She pauses and looks at me hesitantly. Are you sure about this? She asks. Yes, yes, I'm sure. Now come on, shake my hand already. My arm's going numb. Kate smiles sadly as she sniffs and wipes the tears from her eyes with her sleeve. You're an idiot, she tells me as she grabs my hand and squeezes it firmly. I know, I tell her as we finish our handshake. We should be going. Darren and Rose must be getting impatient. Wait, she says. I still owe you an explanation for all of this. It's the least I can do. Does this have anything to do with the Beacon of Hope, or can you first tell me who these Lysathi are exactly? I'll go with it's I don't even have the sound alert box source on this page. I have it on the other ones, but it's not on this page, which is why it shouldn't be playing because it's not there. So I can't mute it because it's not there. Damn it, just closed. I did when I first set it up. Warning to anyone who is listening to this because they're hoping it will be relaxing. There's a sound alert incoming.
Wow.
Yeah, see? But there's no reason that it should play because it's not on this page. So I don't really know how to stop it. So I'm gonna go with, can you first tell me who these Lysathi are exactly? Can you first tell me who these Lysathi are exactly? My understanding was that they were some ancient race from this continent that went extinct a long time ago. What's a kludge? Yes and no. They are indeed the oldest race on this continent, which is why most people simply refer to them as the ancients. However, even though their civilization fell hundreds of years ago, there are still small groups of Lysathi here and there, staying hidden and trying to influence events from the shadows. As far as I know, there are no records explaining the exact reason for their civilization's fall, but it is commonly believed that their own arrogance is somehow the source of their undoing. Their banner is, after all, a hawk holding the sun in its talons, where the hawk represents the Lysathi and the sun represents the gods. Wait a minute. I recognize that banner description. You're telling me that Eden wants me to transmit his message to the remnants of some long-forgotten race? Yes, that's what I'm saying. I have no idea where he knows these people from or what the meaning of his message is, however. I was under the impression that most people do not know the Lysathi even exist anymore. They are very secretive and also very isolated from all other races. They have their own villages hidden from the rest of the world, and they are only allowed to marry other Lisathi, which is why I'm very surprised you are unaware of your own heritage. So if the ancients are hidden from most of the world, how come you know so much about them? Kate pauses. Do you remember how Eden said I was a survivor from the Beacon of Hope? God, stop it. That would work. Yeah, I could just cancel those, but... Do you remember how Eden said I was a survivor from the Beacon of Hope? Yeah? You never did tell me what it was. The Beacon was an orphanage of sorts. They took in children from all over the continent and offered them shelter and free meals. I was born in Varathia and abandoned as a child, so I was sent there at a very young age. The institution was run by a handful of very influential Lisathi at the time, who had deep ties with the Varathian royalty. Unfortunately, the true purpose of that orphanage was not to shelter children who had no home, but to exploit them because they had no family members left to ask about them. Through repeated experimentation, the Lisathi were trying to find a way to turn regular humans into mages. So what you're saying is that you got your powers as a result of these experiments? I did, although the methods they used had an extremely low chance of success. Forcefully injecting magical circuits into a human body is not only a very risky procedure, but also particularly painful. Of the thousands of orphans that were detained in that institution, only a handful of us survived. Due to the lack of results on their part, the Lisathi eventually stopped receiving funds for their project from the royalty, and they were forced to shut down the beacon. So, did they just let you go after that? No, they didn't. I was part of the rejects. Their prolonged experiments had somehow failed to kill me, but my magic was so weak at the time I could barely conjure a snowflake. They had no need for rejects, so they just dumped us on other continents. They used their teleportation magic to transport each of us in various remote jungles across the world, with nothing to our names other than the clothes on our backs and some knives they gave us to fend for ourselves. I was 12 at the time. Kate's eyes shift to the left as she talks, and her gaze becomes more distant. She must be reliving these moments from long ago as she is recounting them to me. I spent weeks in that jungle, hunting small animals and avoiding predators in order to survive. When I finally managed to reach civilization, I was greeted with terrified screams and people running away at the sight of me. It didn't take me long to find out about banshees and to understand that there was no longer a place for me in society. As time passed, I started encountering banshee hunters and white mages that wanted to have me purified. Luckily, by the time I started meeting them, my magical powers had increased considerably, and I became able to defend myself. I'm really sorry. Or, what happened to the other rejects? What happened to the other rejects? The others didn't make it. They were all much younger than I was when they were thrown into the jungle, so they couldn't survive on their own. and even with the daggers provided by the Lasathi, so they couldn't survive on their own, even with the daggers provided by the Lasathi. I spent the first few years of my new life trying to track down the other orphans that were set free, hoping that at least some of them survived, but in the end, the only thing that I could do for them was give them a decent burial. And Diane? Kate was somewhat taken aback by my question. I guess she forgot that she had already told me her friend's name. Diane was my best friend. The only reason I decided to return to this hellhole, Kate says. She was one of the very few persons that reacted favorably to their experiments. She and her brother were by far the most talented of all the mages that had been created in that facility. Due to her talents, she was assigned to the Lasathi Elite Task Force and often served as a personal bodyguard to the highest-ranked members of their group. Wait, if they became so strong, how come they didn't fight back? The Lasathi had some collars that they used to prevent the magic. The Lasathi had some collars that they used to prevent the mages from using their magic against them. The effects were somewhat similar to those of the spells preventing us from attacking locals in this tournament. I'm pretty sure that the artifacts used to cast these spells on us were also made by the Lasathi a few thousand years ago. Hey, Barry, can you hear me? I hear Darren's voice coming from the transceiver. I tap the device once and answer him. Yes, Darren, I can hear you loud and clear. What is it? I really hate to interrupt you and all, but if we want to get to any kind of shelter before the sun sets, we should get going right now. Kate and I exchange a look. All right, I say. We'll be right there. I tap the transceiver again in order to deactivate it, and we start heading towards Darren. What are you going to tell Darren? Kate asks me as we make our way back. I'm not going to tell him anything, or I'm going to tell him the truth. I'm not going to tell him anything. Darren doesn't know that you attacked me, remember? Kate looks as if a weight has been lifted off her chest. Thank you, she says simply, and we walk the rest of the way in silence. As we make our way back, we see Darren and Rose with their backpacks ready, waiting impatiently for us. Finally, Darren says. I hope you've said all you needed, because we're not taking any more breaks. Let's go. The four of us resume our journey. But it doesn't take long before we are interrupted again, this time by a violent earth tremor. What is this, an earthquake? Darren says. Please don't be a dragon, 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 Rose says, starting to panic. As the earthquake intensifies, we start seeing a human figure in the distance getting bigger and bigger, until it reaches a height of 50 feet. The giant man is dressed in leather armor. He has a black beard that reaches down to his chest, and he has a big grin on his face. As he starts to speak, his voice is so loud that it completely drowns out any other sounds in a 5-mile radius. It doesn't really help that he's shouting either. Now that I have everyone's attention, the giant man says, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Hadrick, but my friends call me the Dwarf. I came to this tournament for only one reason: to test my strength against the strongest mages of the world. So what do you all say? Shall we have a little fun practice bout before we get our objectives? I'll be waiting right here for any challengers. I'll try to hold back as much as I can, but I can't make any promises. His laugh is loud and jolly, kind of like the laughter you hear from friendly bartenders and innkeepers. What's wrong with this guy? Doesn't he realize what kind of place this is? The giant starts to shrink slowly as he's laughing, and eventually he disappears behind the trees. Damn, Darren says. Damn, Darren says. That is some impressive shape-shifting. You must have a lot of magical power to be able to turn into something this big. Do you have no knowledge of even the basics of shape-shifting magic? Kate asks him. Do you have no knowledge of how even the basics of shape-shifting magic? No knowledge of even the basics of shape-shifting magic? Kate asks him. You can't just turn into something 10 times bigger than your normal size, no matter how powerful you are. It violates the fundamental principles of shape-shifting. This was obviously an illusion. Oh yeah? And since you're so sure that it was an illusion, can you perhaps care to explain how he managed to make such a realistic earth tremor when he was busy maintaining the illusion spell? How am I supposed to know that? Maybe he has an ally that specializes in earth magic. How is that even relevant? Something isn't right here. Although the fundamental principles Kate speaks of should indeed prohibit the use of shapeshifting in such a manner, an illusion isn't that much more probable either. There's no way any illusion could reach this far out, no matter how powerful the mage is. There must be something we're missing. Or perhaps the man who calls himself Hadrick managed to find a way to temporarily circumvent the laws of magic as we know them. Agree with Kate, agree with Darren, disagree with both. I'm sorry to say that I don't really agree with any of you, I tell them. Both Darren and Kate simultaneously turn towards me. Kate is right about the fundamental laws of shapeshifting, I continue, but an illusion spell would be just as improbable. There are no illusion spells that can reach this far, no matter how powerful or skilled you are as a mage. There must be something we're missing here. Well, it doesn't matter either way, Kate says. This is obviously a trap. I honestly can't imagine how anyone could be stupid enough to fall for something so. Suddenly the bodies of me, Kate, and Darren all start to vibrate loudly as we get enveloped in a white light. Oh no, Kate says. What's happening? Rose asks us. Rose, catch, Darren says as he throws her his transceiver. As soon as she catches it, the three of us get teleported away at the same time. The sensation I'm getting is the same as the one I got when I was first teleported to this continent. It feels almost as if every fiber in my body is being decomposed and then slowly reassembled, while I maintain full awareness of myself throughout the entire process. When I regain all of my senses, I find myself surrounded by a few dozen mages, with Darren and Kate standing right beside me. The mages are looking all around themselves confused. It seems we weren't the only ones who were teleported here all of a sudden. I recognize one of the mages as being the giant that challenged us. He is surprisingly smaller than I expected him to be. I don't think he's much taller than 4 feet. That explains why they call him the dwarf. Judging by the position of a very tall tree I had chosen as a landmark when we left, I'd say we've been teleported right in the middle of the clearing where Hadrick first made his appearance a few moments ago. Is this the dwarf's doing? Good evening, gentlemen. We hear a voice coming from above us. We all look up at the same time and see a little brat floating casually in the air with his hands in his pockets and his eyes closed. Eden. Of course, it would be Eden. I am deeply sorry for interrupting you all from your daily activities, but I thought that it would be a splendid opportunity for all of the participants here, for all the participants of the tournament, but I thought it would be a splendid idea. I am deeply sorry for interrupting you all from your daily activities, but I thought this would be a splendid opportunity for all the participants of the tournament that were in the area to get to know each other better. He then raises his eyebrows and starts looking around him, with his eyes still closed. Huh, he says. In all honesty, I was sort of expecting this to be some sort of... I was expecting this to be a trap of some sort, or at least a well-thought-out ambush. It seems I was mistaken. How disappointing. Barry, Darren whispers to me while Eden is talking. Take out your transceiver and tell Rose where we are. Tell her to come towards us, and we'll meet her halfway as soon as we manage to get out of here. Rose can wait until we're out of here safely. Okay, I'm on it. Okay, I'm on it, I tell him as I take out my transceiver. I notice that the volume is set at its maximum level. It's a good thing I saw this before Rose tried to contact us on her own. I set the volume down to its lowest level and put the transceiver close to my ear in order to hear properly. Then I tap the device lightly with my other hand. Rose, can you hear me? I whisper through the transceiver. There's no answer. Rose, you need to tap the device once for me to hear what you're saying. Barry? Barry? Barry, where are you? What happened? Rose, listen to me closely. I can't talk for long. We were teleported here. We were teleported to where the giant appeared a minute ago. Do you remember where that was? Can you make your way to us? Yes, I can. Yes, I know where that is. I'll be right there. Be careful. As I finish talking with Rose, I notice that there's a loud murmur coming from the people around me, and everyone is moving to clear the center of the clearing, where Eden and Hadrick are both taking their battle stances as if they were preparing for a duel. What's happening? I ask Darren. They're going to duel without using any magic. What? How did it come to this? The dwarf challenged Eden to a fight, and the Stillwater said it would be rude to decline his challenge after coming all the way here. He also said that it would be boring to kill the dwarf with a flick of his fingers, so he suggested the no magic rule. As Darren talks, my attention is drawn towards an old mage in front of me. He looks oddly familiar. Upon taking a closer look at the old mage, I suddenly realize I know him all too well. It is impossible to live in the Western continent and to not have seen his face at least once in your life. His portrait appears almost every month in newspapers, after all. The man standing in front of me is none other than the fabled Azarius, the sage of the West. There are many strong mages in the world, but only 4 of them are officially recognized to be the elite among the elites. They call them the 4 sages, and each of them represents one of the 4 major continents in the world. The sage title is earned or maintained through yearly contests that are held by the leading nations of each continent. Given that each of the 4 magical continents is named after the cardinal point that... given that each of the 4 major continents is named after the cardinal point that represents its position in the world map, each sage title also carries the appropriate cardinal point name. The sage of the West looks exactly like I've seen him in the pictures. An old man, almost 80 years of age, with a long beard as white as snow, holding a long wooden staff in his right hand and wearing traditional wizard robes as well as a pointed hat. He is like a living example of what most people would imagine when they think of a mage. Barry! Hey, Barry, are you listening to me? I realize I must have spaced out while looking at the old sage because I have no idea what Darren's been talking about for the last 10 seconds. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I don't think I caught all of that. I said that this is the perfect opportunity to make our way out of here. They won't pay any attention to us because they're too focused on watching the fight. Actually, I think we should stay and watch the fight too, or... Alright, let's go. Alright, let's go. The three of us start heading out of the clearing. Kate is wearing her hood and covering herself in her green cloak in order to hide the fact that she is a woman, while moving very cautiously to avoid attracting any attention to herself. As we make our way out of the crowd, most people are simply ignoring us, while they are trying to make their way to the center in order to get a better view of the fight. At this rate, we'll be out of here in no time. Hey, watch where you're going, you little runt! I look behind me and I see to see what the commotion is about. A very large man that is at least a head taller than Darren is now furiously looking towards Kate, who seems to have bumped him by accident. She tries to move silently past him, but the man grabs her cloak and lifts her into the air. Don't you dare ignore me, you son of a... The hood drops from Kate's head and her face is revealed. The large mage, it paralyzes in fear for a few seconds. He then immediately drops her, backs away 3 feet, and then starts screaming at the top of his lungs. Ah! Stay away from me, monster! Stay away! Everyone's attention has been directed towards us. Even Eden and Hadrick have stopped their fight to look in our direction. Not this again, says Darren, exasperated. What are you screaming about so loud, you imbecile? Says a mage who is wearing red robes and has a particularly crazy look in his eyes. It's just a banshee. There are dozens of us here. She doesn't stand a chance. It's not just a banshee, says another mage. She has allies. I saw her speak to those two over there a few seconds ago. Oh my gosh, stop. What kind of banshee allies herself with mages, you fools? Kate shouts to them with a very determined look on her face. Don't insult me. I've come here alone, and I've come here alone. Don't insult me. I've come here alone, and I'm going to end you all by myself as well. For a moment, her words confused me, but then I realized she must be trying to protect us. When I try to step towards Kate, Darren stops me. Hey now, let's not get ahead of ourselves, he whispers. Why should we risk our lives just because she refuses to get purified? We can't go on like this forever. How can you say something like this? Isn't she our friend? I don't know. Is she? When you came back from your little meeting in the woods a few minutes ago, you had a bruise on your neck that wasn't there before you left. That was from Kate, right? Wasn't it? You both tried to hide it from me for some reason, but you should know as well as I do that she's more trouble than she's worth. Help Kate, or don't help Kate. Good Barry. I'm sorry, Darren, but I can't just abandon her like this. You don't need to do this if you don't want to. As with these words, I leave Darren behind and take Kate's side on the battlefield. What are you doing? Kate asks me. What the hell is wrong with you? Don't you understand that this fight can't be won? I was going to buy you enough time to escape. You weren't supposed to come here. Man, you really know how to ruin the mood. And here I was thinking that this would turn into a touching and inspirational moment to consolidate our friendship. The only thing that's about to get consolidated here is an ice club that I'll use to smack you in your stupid head. I should be mad, but somehow this scenario seems a lot more fitting in our final moments together. How pathetic, says the mage in red robes. You should have stayed back and let the banshee fight us. Do you seriously think you can make a difference? I don't know. Why don't you tell me? Do you think a still water could make a difference in this fight? No, not even a still water could turn the tide against so many people. But you're not even that, are you? You're just some ordinary guy who's trying to bite off more than he can chew. I guess intimidation tactics don't really work on you, do they? I ask him as I take out my dagger. Fine, let's do this. Give it your best shot. While the two of us were talking, the other mages were busy moving to surround us. Eden seems to have teleported away, probably out of boredom, and the dwarf is now also running towards us. The Sage of the West seems to be on the fence about this whole thing and is watching everything from afar while gently stroking his white beard. The mage with the red robes decides to initiate by shooting a fireball at Kate. She quickly conjures a wall of ice in front of her, which melts on impact with the fireball, but it protects us from the blast of the explosion. The mage in red robes prepares to attack her again, but before he can act, Kate places himself between Kate and her attacker and starts panting heavily. Hold on. Just give me a sec, he says, while everyone looks at him confused. Man, I just can't get used to running with these short legs. I have no quarrel with you, dwarf, says the mage with the crazy eyes and red robe. Step aside and let us deal with that monster behind you. No can do, I'm afraid, the dwarf says. I can't just stand idly by and let you hoodlums treat a lady with disrespect. What? A what? The fire elementalist asks, shocked. Please tell me you're not as dumb as you look. Do you feel that magical aura coming from her? Even someone such as you should be able to understand what that means and what needs to be done. That woman behind you is a banshee, an abomination born from the deepest pits of hell that needs to be eradicated. Oh? Hadrick says with a smug grin on his face. Is she now? The fire elementalist frowns at the dwarf. I see there's no use talking to you then, he says. Very well then. The mage lifts his hand into the air and an enormous spinning column of fire starts forming all around him. As soon as all of the other mages are getting out of his way in order to avoid getting burnt to a crisp. Dwarf, you are going to regret picking a fight with me. Behold the power of Felran, the strongest fire elementalist of the eastern continent. As he speaks, the column of fire gets even bigger. I see you've already accepted your fate. You're not even trying to raise a magical barrier around yourself. Don't worry, I'll make this quick. I can't really guarantee it will be painless, though. Yeah, ha 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 ha. His laugh is just as crazy as the look in his eyes. Hadrick does not say anything, but I can see him clenching his right fist really hard, and I can feel the magical aura around it harden considerably. Die! The mage screams as he sends all of the fire towards the dwarf in the form of a beam. Hadrick awaits the fire. Die! The mage screams as he sends all of the fire towards the dwarf in the form of a beam. Hadrick waits for the fire to reach him, and just before it hits him, he punches it with all of his might. Instead of dispersing, however, all of the fire gets sent back to its owner at double the speed. Before he can even understand what's going on, Felrin gets completely incinerated, leaving behind only a pile of ashes. that are now scattering in the wind. That filthy son of a walrus, Hadric says. He was seriously trying to kill me. Seeing the threat the dwarf poses, all of the other mages that were preparing to attack Kate now are trying to coordinate themselves in order to attack him at the same time. Enough! Shouts Azarius the sage. There will be no more bloodshed on this day. If any of you toddlers feel like raising a ruckus, I am the one you'll be fighting next. Do I make myself clear? Some of the other mages looked like they were actually considering the old mage's proposition for a few seconds, but in the end they all decide against it and start sheathing their weapons. The sage starts heading towards us, and as he walks, all of the other mages rush out of his way to give him clear passage. Greetings, friends, he says, smiling while he looks at the four of us in turn. I apologize for not stopping this ridiculous fight sooner. I'm afraid that curiosity got the better of me, and I was hoping that letting things run their course would provide me with the rare opportunity of seeing the great hero Darren in action. When it became clear that this wasn't going to happen, I just had to put a stop to this tomfoolery. Why are you helping us? You've got it all wrong. We're not with her. Why are you helping us? Well, I couldn't just stand by and watch these overgrown bullies attack a defenseless young lady. Defenseless? Kate shouts. Young lady? Darren asks, confused. Before they get to finish their conversations, a mage dressed in black robes with a snake tattoo on his bald head interrupts them by making a loud tisk-tisk noise. This will not do, Sage of the West, he says. This simply will not do. Azarius turns to him, smiling calmly. A follower of the god of death honors us with his presence, he says. If I did anything to offend you, then by all means, state your complaint. Oh my god, stop. I'm gonna murder the mouse. My complaint is simple, Sage. My god requires more sacrifices to be had this day, and you have deprived him of them by interrupting this fight. Oh? But I was quite sure that, despite his title, Ulrich, the god of death, only delves in necromancy and is not actually ruling the realm of the dead. Why did he suddenly begin to take an interest in the affairs of people who are still alive? If you are simply in search of fresh corpses, I assure you that there are plenty to be found lying around these parts after yesterday's events. Do not question the great Ulrich's judgment, heathen. Your actions have angered my god, and now you will feel his wrath. A mage who is wearing a silver circlet on his head and green robes grabs the necromancer by the arm. Calm down, Zach, he says. There's plenty of time left till the end of the day. We could just kill some more people after we get out of here, and the number of deaths will be the same. Unhand me, fool! I'm only traveling with you because my god ordered me to. Do not presume to tell me what to do. This matter has nothing to do with you or your god of fate. The necromancer pulls himself out of his ally's grasp and starts casting a spell. Tell me, Azarius, have you ever heard of the Still Winter? I've heard several accounts of it. When I I've heard several accounts of it when I visited this continent in the past, yes, the sage answers calmly, but none of them were what I would call reliable. Supposedly, it was a great war that was waged on this continent between still waters and ancients some 600 years ago. Indeed, Zack says, but what would you do if I told you that the remains of the still waters who died in that war can still be found deep underground, scattered throughout the continent? As the necromancer speaks, dozens of skeletons are starting to slowly surface from the ground below us. What would you do if I told you that I could bring these still waters back to life as my puppets, with almost all of their former magical prowess still intact? The skeletons are now starting to attack all of the mages around us while they're running away screaming in terror. The sky itself is darkened as it started literally raining fire and brimstone. Kate is struggling to keep an icy roof above our heads, shielding us from the flames, but it is melting almost as quickly as she's reinforcing it. What would you do, Sage? Tell me! Well, since you asked me so politely, Azaria says, smiling, what I would do is this. The Sage of the West smashes his staff into the ground, and I could feel a very intense vibration in the air all around us. The skeletons have suddenly stopped rampaging, are now just standing in place, vibrating loudly. After a few seconds, all of their bones shatter into pieces at the same time as the rain of fire is brought to a halt, and the sky is starting to clear up once more. Zack, the necromancer, appears to be dumbstruck as he desperately looks around him to see if there isn't at least one of his undead minions that escaped the onslaught. That is an impressive spell, no doubt, Azaria says, but in the end, despite their ridiculous amount of magical power, those skeletons were only a bunch of old dried-up bones bound together with magic. A powerful enough sonic attack can shatter any object as long as you correctly match its vibration frequency. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that spell of yours has a duration of about 5 minutes and can only be cast once per day. Unless you have some other trick up your sleeve, I believe there are a few persons who would like to have a word with you and your companion. All of the mages that were being chased by skeletons a few minutes ago have now surrounded the necromancer and his ally, and you could see that they are thirsting for blood. I'm tired of your crap, Zack, says the necromancer's companion. Every single time it's like this. I'm tired of always having to save your sorry behind. Next time we're in a town, you're buying the drinks. The mage with the circlet on his head then throws something on the ground, which explodes and fills the whole area with a thick gray smoke. Quick, says one of the mages, disperse the smoke. Don't let them get away. An air elementalist blows all of the smoke away, and we can see that Zack and his friend, a few hundred feet from us, running towards the trees. After them, says a mage, and they all start chasing after the two of them. Eventually the mages disappear into the forest, the only person still remaining in the clearing being me, Darren, Kate, Hadrick, Azarius, a young boy likely in his late teens who seems to be the sage's loyal retainer. It really never ceases to amaze me how easily people can be fooled by simple illusions like that, Azarius says while stroking his beard. Illusion? Don't you mean smoke bomb? Wait, are you saying those mages are still hiding here invisibly? Well, that would be awkward. I don't know sign language, so... Well, I don't know enough sign language. Wait, are you saying that those mages are still hiding around here invisibly? No. Of course not. What would they have to gain by still lingering around here after what just happened? They did go invisible while everything was covered in smoke, but as soon as all of those mages were lured away by their decoys, they simply teleported away. I figured they learned their lesson, so I let them off with a stern warning for now. Barry! Kate! Darren! We hear Rose shout out from the other end of the clearing. Thank the gods you're okay. As she approaches us, she pauses to catch her breath. She must have been running all the way here. What happened? She asks us. How did you end up in this place? It was Eden, Darren says. He teleported us here along with another 50 mages, probably in hopes that he'd get to watch us all kill each other. But he eventually got bored and teleported away. Most of the other mages left the clearing in a hurry a few seconds ago, chasing after some necromancer who tried to kill us all but failed miserably. I see, Rose says. She turns toward Hadrick and walks over to him, offering to shake his hand. You must be the shape-shifting giant from before. I'm very pleased to meet you. My name is Rose. Did you manage to find the challenger you were looking for? Aye, lass. That would be very savage, please. Please, no. How long does the challenge last for? 3 minutes? I could play charades or something for 3 minutes. It was Eden. Oh wait, no, I already read that. So, Hadrick was supposed to have a, I think, Irish accent, but I can't do accents, so I'm just gonna sort of slip in and out of something. Aye, lass, Hadrick says grinning as he grabs her hand and shakes it. I believe I have. Did he just take a quick glance towards me when he said that? Oh gods, I hope not. Maybe it was just my imagination. That is good to hear, Rose says, smiling. She then turns towards Azarius. I'm sorry, do I know you from somewhere? She asks him. You look very familiar. I do not believe we've met before, but my portrait appears in the newspapers every once in a while, so you may know me from there. My name is Azarius. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Probably. I'll teach myself sign language and just translate it that way. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Master Azarius, says the young boy standing beside him, I do not mean to be rude, but may I ask why you chose to intervene in this fight? Weren't you the one that taught me that banshees are foul demons that are not to be trusted? Henry, I've told you many times before that there is no need to be so formal when you address me. You can simply call me Azarius. As for your question, before I answer you, I must ask you this. Do you remember the first lesson I taught you about banshees? Do you remember why banshees need to possess human or animal bodies in order to survive? Of course! The banshees were originally born on the magical plane of existence, but they were banished long ago and cursed to live the rest of their lives on our earthen plane. On this plane, it is not possible to live for long without a physical body, so the banshees were forced to adapt by stealing the bodies of other living organisms. Once it is seized by a banshee, Once it is seized by a banshee, the body stops aging, but due to the incompatibility between the banshee's soul and the physical body, the link between the two will decay over time, which forces the spirit to change hosts once every few decades. Very good, Azaria says. Now tell me, do you sense any kind of otherworldly vibe radiating from this woman's body? Does her magical aura appear to be in any way different from that of any other mage you've encountered in your life? No, but I do not understand. How can this be? The sage smiles. That is because she isn't a banshee. She is a woman with magical powers. A woman mage, if you will. What? Darren blurts out. How can you be so sure? You can't possibly tell me that you're basing your entire reasoning on something so vague. You surprise me, healer in armor, Azaria says thoughtfully as he strokes his beard. The way you phrased your last sentence suggests that you do not believe this woman is anything other than a banshee. Yet you seem to travel alongside her. Most peculiar. Darren is looking a little flustered after hearing the sage's remark, but Azarius pays him no mind and instead steps towards me. What about you, Barry? He asks me. From what I could gather, the four of you are traveling together. How would you define your relationship with the young woman named Kate? We've only just met yesterday, so I guess you could say we're acquaintances. I see her as a friend. Oh, we're not actually in a relationship just yet, but we're getting there. I see her as a friend. Shit, I should have saved so I could try two things there. Oh well. I see her as a friend. A friend? Do I take it that you've known her from before this tournament? No, we've only just met yesterday. Interesting. May I ask you then if you know about the Beacon of Hope? Yes, I take a short glance towards Kate before I continue. She told me everything. Wait a minute, Darren interrupts us. Didn't Eden say something about the beacon this morning? Yeah, he said that Kate was a survivor from there, I tell him. A survivor? Darren asks. Yeah, now I remember, and he didn't want to tell us what that meant. What is this Beacon of Hope anyways? Oh my god, stop. Doing like the small list. There. To put it bluntly, Azaria says, the Beacon of Hope was a human experimentation facility disguised as an orphanage. The purpose of that institution was to create mages artificially. Kate's magical powers are a direct result of those experiments. She's... What? Kate says... She's what? Kate... What's wrong with me? She's what? Darren asks, seemingly in too much of a shock to be able to form a coherent sentence. Kate, you were a mage? Rose asks, surprised. Yes, Kate answers her. What did you think I was? Well, those mages we met in the forest this morning kept shouting that you were a banshee, so I kind of figured that's what you were. Everyone seemed to know what it meant, so I didn't want to appear dumb by asking. Kate laughs softly. I guess labels really aren't very important to you, are they, Rose? She says, smiling. Still, I have to admit, Hadrick says, grinning. I didn't expect to meet two survivors from the beacon in the same day. This tournament really is something else. 2 survivors? I asked him. You mean to say that there's another artificial mage here on this continent besides Kate? Aye, the dwarf says, and she's mighty strong too. She took me out with almost no effort. I'm pretty sure that she was using lightning the same way elementalists would use fire or water. Being an artificial mage sure has its perks. Do you know where she was headed? Kate asks. She and her friends in dark blue robes have a camp set up not far from here. Hadrick says, from what I understood, they have no plans to leave until later tomorrow. Could you take me to them? Kate blurts out, perhaps a little too loudly. The dwarf looks slightly taken aback by Kate's sudden request. Please, she asks, this time in a lower pleading voice. Hadrick says, you're asking quite a lot of me, lass. I only barely escaped with my life last time. Is this woman your friend? Yes, Kate says. She's a very old friend. Hadrick gives Kate a long pondering look before deciding to speak. Tell you what, the dwarf says. I'll agree to lead you to your friend's camp on one condition. Name it, Kate says, her face suddenly lighting up. Hadrick grins. Your friend over there has to beat me in a duel, he says, as he turns towards me. Barry, Kate shouts, with a mixture of both shock and disappointment in her voice. You want Barry to defeat you in a duel? You can't be serious. Why him of all people? Well, I don't know if he's a Stillwater or not, but I am quite positive I saw him single-handedly fight a dragon in the sky a few hours ago. You rarely get to meet a worthier opponent. Kate looks at me hesitatingly, probably wanting to see my reaction to all of this. I'm not looking for an all-out fight. We wouldn't want to wear ourselves out completely before the tournament even begins. A short sparring session will do. No magic, no weapons, just like my fight with the Stillwater from before. And since we're in a hurry, whoever makes the other one fall to the ground first will be declared the victor. The dwarf turns to me, grinning yet again. So what do you say, Barry? Are you in or are you out? I'm gonna save here. Nah, I'll know what that means. And because it's Barry, I'll accept the challenge, because why not? Ha, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. Ha, that's the spirit, Hadrick says. Barry, wait, you'll get yourself killed. Kate says. I'll be fine, I tell her as I move to align myself with the dwarf, leaving about 20 feet of distance between us. Kate doesn't try to stop me anymore, but you can see that she has an uneasy look on her face. Her eyes You can see she has an uneasy look in her eyes. The others are now stepping aside in order to give us the space we need to begin our fight. There's something that's been bothering me ever since we got teleported here. I'm not sure if anyone else noticed this, but the dwarf has been shape-shifting this entire time. I can tell by the feel of his magical aura. This is not his original form. As far as I know, shape-shifting magic can only be used to change your size or to transform yourself into another creature. It cannot be used to disguise yourself as someone else. What possible benefit could Hadric get from transforming himself into a dwarf? I then suddenly remember his first appearance. Of course. Now it all makes sense. Why didn't I realize this sooner? Shape-shifting magic cannot be used to turn yourself into a giant, but it can be used to turn yourself into a dwarf. He didn't use magic to become 50 foot tall. He just reverted back to his original form. Hadric is a giant. The reason he is masquerading as a dwarf is likely because giants were never invited to this tournament, and he fears that they will kick him out if they find out the truth. This must mean he has inhuman strength. When shape-shifting into something smaller than yourself, you can usually retain a small part of your original mass and most of your original strength. A single punch from him could blow me to bits. I need to be extra careful here. Even if he said this was going to be a sparring match, he doesn't really look like the kind of guy who knows how to hold back. Now that I know he's a giant, I can use this information to my advantage. Since he chose to transform into a dwarf and not a human, his body proportions are completely different from those of his normal body. He even said himself that he wasn't used to running with short legs. I'm willing to bet that this is also affecting his sense of balance somehow. I just need to use techniques that aim specifically to knock him off balance. Hadric is now grinning and cracking his knuckles. Well, Barry, he says after a while, here I come. The dwarf comes charging directly towards me without bothering to use any evasive maneuvers. Just before he reaches me, he picks up speed and appears right in front of me, almost as if he'd used teleportation. Instead of going for a punch, however, he attempts to prod me with his index finger. Alright. Alright, let's see. Which check am I about to fail? Reflexes check, level 3. Even for a prod, his strike is so fast that I couldn't even dream of dodging it. Instead, I get thrown back about 4 feet before falling to the ground with a big thump. Barry, are you doing okay? Darren shouts as he rushes towards me. I'm fine, I answer him. Maybe just a little shaken up. Well, that was kind of underwhelming. Hadric says disappointed. I guess I was getting my hopes up a little too much for this fight. How about a rematch? I was caught off guard by your speed. Normally, I'm not so weak. I don't know if I want to stick with what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna see. Accept the challenge. Prod or no, if that hit connects with me, it will most certainly throw me off my feet. I managed to sidestep at the last moment, and I try to take advantage of his momentum to grab him by the arm and pull him to the ground. Instead of letting himself get pulled, Hadric grabs onto me, spins himself, and throws me to the ground, sending me rolling about rolling for about 2 seconds before I come to a full stop. Barry, are you okay? Okay, yeah, going back. Okay. I was just caught off guard by your speed. Normally I'm not so weak. Oh? The dwarf says, grinning. How about a rematch then? Wait, I did reload, right? Yeah, okay. Although I have to warn you that this time I won't be going easy on you anymore. No! Kate shouts as she comes towards us and then turns to me. Barry, I'm really sorry that you got hurt for my sake. I shouldn't have let you fight in my stead. Then she turns to Hadrick. Now she turns to Hadrick. Dwarf, how about another deal? I will fight you instead of Barry, and if I win, you will lead me to my friend's camp. But instead of a fist fight, we'll have a magical duel. A magic duel? Hadrick says, with a grin. Are you sure about that? I'm positive. Well, then we have a deal. You defeat me in a magic duel, and I will personally lead you to where you want to go. I am just going to need a few seconds to get ready, if you don't mind. Of course, Kate says. Feel free to cast any protection spells you want. I've already cast mine this morning. As Kate is talking, the dwarf has started rapidly gaining in size. The ground began to shake violently as he grew more and more, while his skin started getting covered in black scales and wings started sprouting out of his back. When he reached the end of his transformation, Hadrick had turned into a full-blown black dragon, almost the same size as Tyrath. Here, Hadrick says, baring his fangs to show his usual wide grin. Now I'm ready. Gods have mercy, Kate says, looking up at the huge monster that had spawned before us. Ah! Rose starts screaming all of a sudden as she sees the dragon. Stay away! Stay away! Rose, calm down, Darren tells her. It's just Hadrick in a shape-shifted form. It's not a real dragon. What's wrong, Kate? What's wrong, Kate? Hadrick says, his voice is much deeper and louder than when he's in his dwarf form. You aren't going to back out on me now, are you? Kate frowns. No, Kate says. I was just a little surprised is all. But if it's a dragon fight you want, then I have no objections. Kate is now assembling her very own dragon out of sculpted ice with a size to match that of Hadrick's, but this seems different from all of her other spells. The ice dragon that is now standing before us seems almost as if it were an actual living, breathing creature. This is on a whole other level compared to what she's cast before. She must really be going all out. You may have the appearance of a dragon, Kate says, but you and I both know that shape-shifting does not grant you the ability to breathe fire, and you can't cast any fire spells when you're in that form either. Let's see how long you can last against my ice. Hadrick grins, and he soars into the sky. Kate's dragon follows him Kate's dragon follows him, and in the meantime, she starts building a cage out of ice. She starts building a cage of ice around herself, which she then uses to raise herself into the air in order to get a better view of the fight. These two dragons are diving at each other and attacking with both their claws and their fangs. Kate's reinforced ice seems to be holding up rather well against Hadrick's attacks. I'm quite sure that Tyrath would have sliced through her ice dragon as... Sorry. The two dragons are diving at each other and attacking with both their claws and their fangs. Kate's reinforced ice seems to be holding up rather well against Hadrick's attacks. I'm quite sure that Tyrath would have sliced through her ice dragon as through butter. I guess his King of All Dragons title was not just for show after all. Oh my god. This mouse. Kate is now ramping up her attacks by also shooting... Oh my god, I fucked up. By also shooting Hadrick with hundreds of icicles, while her ice dragon is still on his tail. Every time Hadrick tries to go for Kate, she moves her cage out of his way and sends her ice dragon to intercept him. Some of the icicles hit the black dragon on his left wing, and he starts falling from the sky. As the ice dragon takes full advantage of this opportunity and dives right on to its opponent. The two dragons crash onto the ground with the ice one on top pinning the black one into place with its claws. Kate is now slowly descending as well with her ice cage, still in her ice cage, and she looks at Hadrick, waiting for his next move. Okay, I give up, you win, Hadrick says as he transforms back into his dwarf form. Upon hearing his words, Kate brings her cage back down, and once she's safely on the ground, she dismisses both the cage and the dragon. Does this mean that you'll grant me my request? Kate says with a hopeful look in her eyes. Well, I can't say that I'm really looking forward to it, but a deal's a deal. Pack your bags, Kate. I'm going to lead you to your... Pack your bags, Kate. I'm going to lead you to your friend. Lead you to your friend. Thank you so much, Kate says. I have a lot of money with me. I promise I will make it worth your while. What are you talking about? Hadrick asks her. I already told you we have a deal, didn't I? There's no need for you to pay me anything. Now hurry up and get your backpack. It's a lot harder to find our way through the forest once it gets dark. Of course, Kate says. I'll be right back. My friends, Azarius tells us as Kate hurries past him to get her backpack. It has been a great privilege to meet you all, but I'm afraid we must take our departure as well. I only have one question before we leave. I couldn't help but notice that the four of you seem to have been acquainted with the young Stillwater from even before he teleported us all to this clearing. Would you by any chance know any information that could prove useful if we were ever to have to face him in a battle? Tell him everything I know, or give him a vague answer that doesn't tell him anything useful. Smart, Good Barry, and Azarius seems like a nice guy. Alright. I'll tell him everything I know. We don't know very much about him, really, since we only just met him this morning, I tell him. From what I could tell, he has a ridiculous amount of magical power, and he can use multiple types of elemental magic. He also seems to be able to completely ignore the traditional laws of magic. When we first met him, he just bypassed all of Darren's magical protections and put him to sleep with a simple wave of his hand. Oh, and one more thing. He appears to be virtually undetectable when he turns invisible. I couldn't even sense a hint of his magical aura when he was hiding his presence. Unfortunately, I didn't write this story, but that would be really funny if I could do that. I'll suggest it to the author. Ah, shit, it crashed. So before I started reading this, like, it is a free game, and when I started playing it on here, I made a new account so that, there used to be ads, but I guess he took the ads down, so he would still get some amount of ad revenue, but I posted on the Reddit page asking for permission to read this out loud on my stream, because I have a lot of respect for the guy who writes it. He writes it all himself. He's on the 3rd book right now. And then he codes it all himself for both iOS and Android. No, that's not what I want. And yeah, anyways, I just clipped you guys suggesting that, and I'm gonna send it to him. He did give me permission, which is really cool. But yeah, I have mad respect for him. I can't even imagine writing a story like this. He has 5 books planned. I can't. There's multiple love interests, there's multiple paths you can take. Yeah, seriously. Anyways. Are you kidding me? That makes everything in my life easier. We don't know very much about him, really, since we only just met him from this morning. Okay. Skip all that. Interesting, Azarius says as he smashes his staff onto the ground and I feel a wave of air hit me in the face. Well, unless he's also found a way to completely eliminate his physical presence from this plane, we can rest assured that he isn't listening to our conversation right now. I just used a sonar spell to detect objects and persons in the area, and we are the only mages in this clearing. I also have another question for you. Do you know if he has any enemies here on this planet? Yes, he does. Tyra the dragon I fought in the sky a few hours ago was looking specifically for Eden and wanted him dead. I believe he's made an enemy of the Lasathi as well. He told us to deliver a message to any ancients we find and tell them to remember the still winter. Given from what I heard you say earlier, about the still winter earlier, I can only assume that it's meant as a threat. I see, the old sage says as he strokes his beard. This could prove to be invaluable information. If we if we are ever to make an enemy of him ourselves. The Stillwater said earlier that he wasn't participating in the tournament, but it never hurts to be too careful. Thank you for sharing this with me. You're welcome, I tell him. Master Azarius, the mage's pupil says as he approaches us holding a map in his hand. Azarius, the sage says. Just call me Azarius. Yes, Master Azarius, the sage sighs. Tell me, Henry, what is it? I just noticed that there is an unusually large concentration of magic around this area, Henry says while pointing to the lower side of his map. Perhaps it could be what we are looking for? Perhaps, Azarius says. At any rate, it's not very far from here, so I suppose we could make it there before it gets too dark to see anything. Mark the location on the map. Understood. As Kate comes back with her backpack, Azarius turns to us. Goodbye, my friends, he says. I wish you all safe travels, and I hope we meet again. Goodbye, Azarius. Goodbye, Henry, Rose says as we all wave to them. I'm sure our paths will cross again someday. Henry looks back towards us with a surprised expression on his face. He probably isn't used to people acknowledging his existence as he travels alongside the Sage of the West. He nods curtly to Rose, and then he hurries to catch up with Azarius, as they both slowly distance themselves from us and disappear into the depths of the forest. Well, Kate says, I suppose I should get going too. Darren, Rose, and I will look at her simultaneously. I guess this is goodbye, she says. We've had our ups and downs, but I'm really glad that I got to spend this short time with you. Thank you all very much for the patience you've shown me. She then takes a deep bow and prepares to take her leave. Kate, what are you saying all of a sudden? Rose asks her. You do realize we're coming with you, right? We are? Darren starts to say, but I hit him in the side with my elbow. I mean, of course we are. Naturally. Wait, what? Kate says, shocked. No, Rose, you can't. What about all those sick people waiting for you in your hometown? Oh, you don't need to worry about that, Rose says. With all the shortcuts we've been taking so far, I'm days ahead of my original schedule. I would have never had the courage to take such a direct route if you hadn't been there to escort me. Accompanying you on your way to meet your friend is the least I can do to pay you back. And besides, Hadrick said that the camp you were headed to isn't that far from here. Isn't that right, Hadrick? Aye, Hadrick says to her. It's true. There, you see, Rose says, smiling. Everything works out just fine. But I couldn't, Kate starts to say, but Hadrick interrupts her. It's settled then, he says loudly, completely drowning out the sound of Kate's voice. Now, come on, follow me. I'm going to try and take a shortcut. With these final words, we all grab our backpacks and hurry up to follow Hadrick and Kate. Kate just stands there for a few moments, unsure what to do, but then she decides to follow him too before long she starts walking side by side with us again. As if our previous discussion never even took place. We walk in complete silence for a few minutes, and we walk in complete silence for a few minutes. Kate has always been the silent type, but I'm not really surprised about her. But I don't think I've ever seen Darren go for more than a minute without opening his mouth. He must still be in shock after what he heard about the beacon. He's probably having a hard time internalizing that information, given how adamantly he'd been holding on to the opinion that Kate was a banshee until now. Boy, you are a quiet bunch, Hadrick says after a few minutes of awkward silence. Fine, I'll break the ice then. Come on, ask me anything. Why did you rush to defend Kate earlier in the clearing? How did you and Kate's friend meet? Do all doors have ale running through their veins instead of blood? I'll go with how did you and Kate's friend meet? I really wanted to finish chapter 7, but my throat hurts and I'm tired, so I'm having trouble focusing on the chapters. The more I read, the better I am at reading for longer amounts of time, but still. So I will save here because hopefully that will protect my progress, but probably not. I know, but I really wanted to finish chapter 7, considering this is the second time I'm doing chapter 7, because I lost all of my saves. Yeah, hang on. I'm not done yet. Okay. Alright, let's, thinking that maybe if I always exit out of it this way, maybe it won't, like, do the thing. Alright, just chatting. Okay, well. Were you guys enjoying the story? Thank you for the hydrate. Do you guys like the story? It is a really cool story. If you like reading, which I know a lot of people these days don't seem to like reading anymore, but it is free, and there's a lot of different paths you can take. Personally, I'm looking forward to taking the average Joe path, but the first time I'm reading it on here, I figured I'd take a more logical path. The average Joe is, because there's achievements you can get. The average Joe path is where you don't put any points into your stat device, so you literally go through it with nothing. Like no strength or ancient languages, no boosts whatsoever. And apparently you start breaking the fourth wall because there's no logical reason to do this. It's only for the achievement. And so there are moments where you break the fourth wall and I guess it freaks out the other characters. I did not see that coming. Did you like them? I forgot about Divergent. The final book of that book series was very disappointing. Oh, well. I really liked the first books of all of them, and then the final books were disappointing. Like, Hunger Games, the final book was okay, but the final book of Divergent, I was not pleased with. I mean, what? She is just this immunity, because she has immunity to all of the serums, she's immune to the poison, the death serum, which Like, and why is there only one? Why is there only one serum? It's just poison. If you're going to poison someone, just like, use poison. Yeah, I was annoyed. I'm still annoyed. I didn't like the end. Anyways, I'm tired. My throat hurts, so I kind of want to stop talking now. You guys are all wonderful. Thank you so much for. I'd ask that you don't test that. But, you do you. Whatever you do. Damn. I know that when I was younger, I was a weird child. I could read books that were like this thick overnight. And I would not handle it well because I would just zone in, the opposite of ADD, even though I have ADD. I think I'm gonna use that as my cue to go because my friend's calling me. You guys are all absolutely wonderful. I love you guys. Thank you for still being here. We should talk books next time. And yeah, thank you so much. I will see you probably tomorrow. Yeah, thank you guys.